stupid shit. It's like you said my mic is not in here or something. Okay, can y'all hear me now? Are we back? Are we here? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. Can y'all hear me? The crazy thing about this is gonna post as a real video, and there's gonna be 10 minutes of us struggling together. So I'm over it. But let me know in the chat if y'all can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. No sound, no sound. There you go. Okay, y'all can hear me. Yes. Okay, you can hear me. Thank God. So I'm gonna need all of the encouragement in the entire world to not quit and give up on these lives because they are running me. I'm over it. Okay, and just as dramatic as I'm sitting here in this coat, this live is a lot of drama before we can get into what we really need to be talking about because we can't get the sound right every time. Or I'm gonna need some encouragement. I'm gonna need a little drink after this. I might go have lunch. We're doing this in real time. It's embarrassing. Anyway, I thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. I appreciate y'all for being here this morning. It's cold and I'm bundled up and I got my tea in my Gloryland glass and my Gloryland mug. If y'all came to Gloryland, hopefully y'all grabbed it. I'm here in Houston and it's been like 30 degrees. Look, starting in February, I'm going to be traveling again all over for all of the art things. If you guys follow me back in the day, y'all know I was all over the world, all over the country, really just going to all of the art things. And I took a break on that because I had a baby girl and I wanted to prioritize that. But we're back, baby. In February, we are back traveling. I'll be going to Los Angeles for Freeze and also some other things. Where y'all at? Tell me where you guys are. Where are you guys? Where are y'all? Thank y'all. Y'all love the jacket. I love it. Thank y'all. It's a little dramatic. I'm just in my office. I'm at home, but it's a little dramatic. Happy holidays to you guys too. Where are y'all? Where are y'all? Let me know where you are. I am in Houston, Texas. Are y'all in Minnesota, Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, Canada, Australia, Morocco? Shout out your city in the chat. Let us know where you are. So before, yeah, I'm gonna have a little drink. I see y'all in the chat encouraging me, telling me to breathe. I need it. I appreciate that, y'all. We're live, so you guys are watching it in real time. But before we get started, I want y'all to check out a few things. Because I was scrolling through Instagram this morning and I seen something that really caught my attention, and it made me more than anything, it made me happy. More than anything, it made me happy, really. So if you guys are familiar with Gloryland and y'all kept up with who is speaking at Gloryland, you guys seen that Lujay Delsey, he came to Gloryland and he spoke with a really great friend of mine, Unique James. And let me tell y'all how important Instagram, YouTube, Threads, all the social media is in connecting people. My girl Unique called me, and she's a producer. She's produced things. She produced on Beyonce's Cowboy Carter. She's producing for so many different things. And she's a really great friend of mine. She talks me into a lot of things, and she keeps me going on a lot of things. So we can all thank Unique for me continuing in most of the things I'm doing when I'm ready to jump off the ledge. I'm probably gonna have to call her after this live and let her know, look, girl, I'm over it. But she called me one day before Gloryland, literally about 2 weeks before Gloryland. Everything had all fell into place. And she's like, look, I met this really amazing guy. His name is Lujay. He's a photographer and he is also a filmmaker. And he made this film for the National Geographic Channel. And he's coming down here to Houston for Untitled. And he really wants to show his film. Do you mind getting on a call with him? He's in another country right now, so we'd have to get on the call like 3 a.m. I'm used to that. A lot of my clients live in other countries. So a 3 a.m. call for me is no big deal. We're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. So we get on the call with Lujay and we talk a little bit. We make sure that we're aligned, that he is aligned with what Gloryland is, and then we have him for the talk. And it was such an amazing talk. I haven't had a chance to actually edit that and get that up on YouTube yet. And I might just make that for my members. I'm exploring doing like this members only situation for the lives and just like for the channel, period. But anyway, we got Lujay there, and during Miami Art Week, I know we just keep talking about Miami Art Week, but it just keeps coming up. It's ever going through the month of December. But anyway, he had this really amazing presentation via Atlanta Art Week at Scope. And I don't know if you guys seen it, or let's see if we can get to his page, because his flags of his photography were just flowing in the wind as you entered Scope. So if you guys went to Miami, you've seen his work, and he has this beautiful, beautiful work. So I wanted to highlight that because it was really cool to be able to see him getting publication recognition through Miami Art Week and the work that he's doing. I really encourage y'all to look him up and to look up that documentary that he did for the National Geographic Channel. He's a very beautiful artist. The way that he documents things, the way that he is saturating the colors, but in such a thoughtful way. Man, I would encourage you guys to kind of get into his work and get into him. I know that he's going to continue to do amazing things. So I wanted to highlight that just for a little bit. Y'all don't miss Gloryland in 2026, okay? The information that the folks that we have coming and, you know, coming to Gloryland and talking and giving the game, just free game, man, that's not, if I were on the other side of it, I wouldn't miss it. And I'm literally building it so I can also get the game from these folks. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into all of the deep things and the institutional things and et cetera, I ran across also Amy Sherald. If you guys follow her on Instagram, I'm just scrolling down Instagram and then I see a picture of a young Amy Sherald and Tupac in the back. And she commented, watching this Diddy doc, which, did y'all watch it? This ain't that type of channel. We're not talking about that, but let me know if you watched it. Anyway, watching this Diddy doc and seeing Tupac has me thinking about how people's destinies and fates unfold, how quickly everything can shift. And she says that in this photo, it was about 22-ish years ago, or it was 22-year-old her in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1995, Peachtree Motoring Accessory. So she was having one. She was smoking one in the photograph. And I thought this is an iconic photograph, because if we know anything about what she does now, and this is going to segue. When I was thinking about this live, I'm like, ooh, what a beautiful segue we're about to have. To go from looking at this picture of Amy Sherrod with young Tupac and understanding how iconic it is, even when you scroll down and you see who's commenting, it's iconic. I love it. Anyway, so when we think about the way that we're thinking about institutions and what we're going to talk about today in terms of what these institutions are facing, what they're doing, who they're showing, the choices they're making, we have to start with Amy Sherrod and a decision that she made. If you don't know who Amy Sherrod is, just really quick, she painted the portrait of Michelle Obama during Obama's presidency. And I want to share this with you guys so you can kind of get a sense of what she's done and the controversy that kind of stirred up a few months ago over her deciding to pull her show. Let's go to this here. She decided to pull her show from the Smithsonian. And that was one of the most iconic, groundbreaking choices that an artist could make, to say absolutely not. I'm going to make the choices for my exhibition. I don't like your censorship, and I'm not dealing with your censorship. I have a powerful enough voice to say I'm not doing it and still hold my legacy. And I also know there are other institutions that will take this exhibition and it will be just as powerful as it would have been here. And so I want to just kind of take a second for you guys to listen to this.
When Amy Sherrod was selected to paint the official portrait of Michelle Obama 8 years ago, many people in the art world didn't know who she was. They do now. At 52, Sherrod has become one of America's most celebrated painters. She's had 2 major museum retrospectives this year and was supposed to have a third this month at the Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery. But Sherrod canceled it, concerned, she says, that museum officials, already under pressure from the Trump administration, were going to try and censor a painting. The controversy made headlines, but Sherrod has faced much bigger challenges than that. Like many of the people she paints, Amy Sherrod has found a way to make her way.
I encourage y'all to watch this entire thing, because when you resist and you have that clarity around your practice, first of all, let me say everyone can't do this, right? I mean, everyone can do this. When you have clarity around your practice and you understand your intentions and you have also faith in your practice, anyone can do what Amy Sherrod done, what she's done. But it might not turn out the same way. And we've talked about this a little bit before, but I thought it was important to frame Amy Sherrod as this figure who was able to do that as we go into the Whitney and the artists that they're choosing for their biennial, and the criticism that's kind of faced around that institution. The biennial reflects the institution's priorities, period. And I do want to say that at some point, I believed that this exhibition that happens every 2 years, I thought that it was a highlight on the most important artists of our time. And I remember looking at it like that years ago, that, hey, like, this should signify, or signal, not signify, but this should signal universal taste. And many people treat it that way. A lot of people treat it as this signal to, hey, well, let's look at these artists and profile them and understand that they might be going somewhere that is really, really important. And so I wanted to talk about this because this biennial answers the question, what is this institution prepared to frame publicly? What are they prepared to frame publicly right now in this time period? Artists don't just get picked for something like this, right? This is not an exhibition that you just get picked from. These curators, they're spending years and years and thousands and hundreds or whatever of studio visits and ongoing conversations, tracking these artists and their practices over time, making sure that they're in alignment with what the curators want to show during the spotlight. And so what I'm not going to do is take away from how important the Whitney Biennial is and how important that spotlight is and how life-changing it is for artists who are picked for this. Artists who are picked to be in this exhibition, their life can change. But I do want to say that this year there has been some criticism, and I want to start with this post that I seen here on Instagram. We're going to get back to this artist a little bit later. Okay, so this profile, the Art Daddy, they make valid points, so we're going to ignore the name. Whitney Biennial 2026 theme plus artist just dropped. Daddy, can't believe he's making me say that, read the press release so you could stay hot and uniformed. So here are my takes. And I thought this was interesting. That's why we're spending time on it. Okay. The 2026 Whitney Biennial feels unexpectedly quiet for a political moment this loud. And yes, context matters. The facts: 56 artists, duos, which the first that they list on their website is a duo, and collectives versus 71 in 2024. So already there's a shift, right? It's curated by Marcela Guerrero and Drew Sawyer, and it's framed around relationality and infrastructure. And what you guys will notice is, as we're looking at some of the artists, we'll notice that these artists are, in a sense, world building. And if you follow and you listen to my channel, you know I'm a fan of world building, but I also agree with what he's saying, to a sense. Anyway, framed around relationality and infrastructure, mood, texture, coexistence over confrontation. This is measured, intentional scale. And so what he's saying is, in the past years, or in specific years, confrontation was a key element of this exhibition. And this year, they're playing it safe. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at Amy Sherrod pulling out because the museum wanted to play it safe. It's happening. That's what's happening. They're playing it safe. In my last video that came out last Thursday, the first thing I talked about in that video, that video was about 10 things that happened this year that kind of changed the climate of where we are. And the first thing that we talked about was political pressures. And that political pressure is also why we're dealing with what we're talking about right now. That political pressure is why Amy Sherrod had to pull from that show. That political pressure is why this exhibition is playing it safe. And I'm not saying that everything needs to be so political and so socially aligned in a conflicting way and have so much conflict, but they are actually playing it safe. I'm also not saying that it's not going to be a beautiful show, because I believe it has the infrastructure. I believe it has the artists to have a beautiful show. And I also want to say the artists that they're picking, I don't think that the artists are playing it safe. I believe that the way that it's framed, the way that it will be contextualized, will be in a safe way. And they're going to use language to allow it to be safe and allow the viewer to see the in-between lines of what's actually happening via this exhibition. Let me know what y'all think. Actually, have y'all even taken a look at the biennial? Have y'all taken a look so far? Have y'all even paid attention to the artists that they've chosen? Have y'all even paid attention to the artists that they've chosen in previous years? Okay, so someone say I think it's more about funding than playing it safe. I mean, I think those two things go hand in hand. I think that you definitely play it safe when you need the funding, right? And it depends on who is actually funding the museum and what safe means to those donors. So I think playing it safe and funding definitely kind of goes hand in hand. Let me know what you think. So he goes on to continue to say, but here's the problem. In a moment defined by student repression, cultural institutional or institution backpedaling, and political intimidation, real material consequences, quiet stops reading as, oh man, I missed it. Quiet stops reading, let's go back to it. I got out of it. Quiet stops reading as subtle and starts reading as strategic restraint. We can spend a lot of time on this, and we can spend a lot of time talking and going through all of these 56 artists, duos, and collectives. We could. And I actually really encourage you guys to go look at the artists. But artists, look, public trust for these museums is really fragile. And all of these curatorial decisions are going to be scrutinized. Okay. Artists are always, or I would say often, read in a symbolic way. And when you look at exhibitions like this, you're looking for them to highlight the crux, right? The crux of what's going on in America and in the world. Artists and biennials are really always, are often asked to stand in a conversation much bigger than their work. And the move after the biennial, that's what's going to define if that artist is going to be able to sustain themselves. Collectors are asking themselves, does this biennial inclusion change how you see an artist long term? And when they're placed in a biennial like this, that really doesn't highlight the pressure that they're putting on their practice, or the pressure they're putting on the questions that they're asking. You have to ask, is this even a good one to be in? And I know that's like a crazy question, right? Like one of the most important exhibitions of the year in the world. It only happens every 2 years. Asking yourself, is this a good one to be in? Because political pressure and social pressure is not allowing the artist, it's not allowing the artist to really dig in, or it's not being contextualized in a way that benefits to the artist and to their practice. Let me know, what do y'all think about that? Are y'all following what I'm saying? You know, this is one of the most important shows of every 2 years. And when an artist is included in this exhibition, it should be a key point to them being extremely successful, but it also should be a key point to them being an artist that could put pressure and that could dig and research so deeply into a topic that is relevant to the time that we're in right now. And when you have an exhibition that's not putting any type of focus on the political pressure, the political resistance that we stand in right now, what that does is put a highlight on the censorship that these institutions are having. And the Whitney Biennial, it's not going to crown these careers. It's going to put a stress test on them. The Whitney Biennial, it could create value for these artists, or it could reveal what their practice is prepared for. Let me know what y'all think. We could go on and on. Man, thank y'all so much. I see Heart for Art Culture gave a $5 super chat. Hey, I like that. Go ahead. The rest, where y'all at? If everybody sent $1, we'd be good. We could do it live every day. I appreciate that. Yeah, but yeah, they're playing it safe. I thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that. It's a lot of comments that come through. So when y'all send that, just so you know, it lights up in total blue, and it gives me a focus to read your chat online. $1, $5. I'm not asking you guys for money. I'm not. But I really do appreciate it. So anyway, I want to take a look at one of the artists that the biennial is focusing on. And to be honest, as I'm sorting through and looking through these artists, I like the work. I think that they did a great job at picking these artists. And what I realize is they're not placing them in conversation with one another by term or by theme, right? Like they're allowing them to come in and build these worlds, and the exploration seems to be in material. The exploration seems to be in how artists are taking an idea and bringing them into a world, their own worldview, and building their own world. So this artist her name is Young Jun, and let's take a look. Let's make sure I don't lie to you guys about where she's from, but I believe she's from Brooklyn and lives in Los Angeles. I'm sure I can find that on her website. Okay, yeah. So she is a Los Angeles-based artist whose work moves between sculpture, performance, and collective practice. And she's exploring bodily transformation, intimacy, and the politics of visibility. And look, I do like this artist. I want to encourage y'all. When you guys are writing your artist statement, I feel like this is not a heavy critique on her, but I do want to highlight, and I do want to talk about how an artist statement can read like 1,000 other artist statements. And I just read an artist statement the other day of an artist. I believe her name was Sonia. I'm talking about her in a video that drops tomorrow. And it read the exact same way. The work moves between sculpture, performance, and collective practice to explore bodily transformation, intimacy, and the politics of visibility. And I understand the idea of these shared ideas. I understand that we have shared ideas, but I really feel like as an artist, you need to really dig into what it is you're doing and what it is you're doing that's different than other artists, and then say that and say it in plain language. I am a fan of her work as I'm going through it and looking at it, but I'm not a fan of the artist statement. No shade at all, though. I think she's a beautiful artist. And so as you can see, when you're looking at her work, she is putting pressure on the idea of the body in these gestural moments that kind of live in this gravity in a sense, right? And if you look at this and these two figures kissing, there's this gravity. What draws me to her work is the glitter. And glitter is often looked at as something that doesn't sustain a practice. I see artists that include glitter in their work often, and it's kind of hard for them to move into a space to where their work is viewed as sustainable, their work is viewed as durable, and their work is viewed as serious. There are a few artists that I can think of off the top of my head that are doing this in a really beautiful way. But I do like the way that she is using glitter. And I do like the way that she's exploring intimacy in this fantastical way. Kind of this detachment she has from the rest of her body part. She's putting a focus on one part of the body at a time and what that body part is engaging in. And I do like it. And I love it. And I believe that if I seen it in person, I would love it even more. I also could appreciate that she focuses on these moments in a very elegant way, in a way that is not disturbing, in a way that is not sexualized, in a way that focuses in on body parts that we adorn, body parts that we take pride in, but also not in a sexualized way. And creating this, I mean, I'm sure I would love to talk to her and kind of go through like a conversation with her without using all the art world jargon and I want to talk to her about what her studio practice feels like and looks like when she's in there alone and creating this booty. Right? Like that's what it is. And I'm pretty sure she had fun with that, but also the seriousness of it and not sexualizing such a body part that is heavily sexualized. And as you go through her practice and you see the way that she's engaging, even I believe with ink, this might be ink blot, the way she's engaging with two humans, and it is kind of sexual, but more than it is sexual, it's intimate. Let me know what y'all think about her work. But my point in showing her work is that she has and can sustain a world. She can build a world. A world can exist purely through her work. And as you go through the artists within the biennial, you will see and notice that so much of the work that they're featuring can hold its own and it can exist in its own world. So even if we look at this artist here, there was something I wanted to show you guys. Yeah. It's really interesting the artists that they're picking. These artists are not just, they're multi-dimensional artists. They're multidisciplinary artists. And they are focusing on many different practices, whether that's sculpture, drawing, painting, photography, and they're blending those things, which is what is allowing them to create these worlds. And even an artist like this that uses space and uses the human figure to activate the space, clearly they're using sound. And it just proves my point, right? And my main point is, this is not a confrontational exhibition from what I can see so far. There is provocation, but not in the way in which you would think an institution with a show so important would go in this type of political climate. Let me get to the chat and see what you guys are saying. You said, I like her idea, but I simply think there are a lot of artists working on similar projects. Yeah, I mean, I do too. I think there are a lot of artists working on similar projects. And you know, like I said, there are artists that I have explored that I could see are working on similar projects. But again, I do want to respect in a way the curators that they spent so much time. I've spent no time with this artist. And the only time I've spent is looking on their website, looking on their Instagram, reading their artist statement, and doing what I could do from my computer. But have I seen their work in person? No, I haven't engaged with it. So from my first engagement, I am drawn to the work. I do like the work. But critically, do I think we're going to leave it there. I do like the work. So that also brings me to Maria Balshaw. I hope I'm saying her name right. Maria Balshaw, who stepped down from the director of Tate, and she will be ending in 2026. And that is literally a continuation of what we're talking about right now. So she became the director of the Tate in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. I mean, this was a time period where things were heavily political. I mean, they're political now, but we were going through the vid, you know, and we were going through such an incredible, and when I say incredible, I don't mean that in a good way. We were going through such a confrontational time politically, but also such a confrontational and nuanced time when it came to health and when it came to the way that different people in your family, your friends responded to this pandemic. And she became the director in a time where that had not happened. And there's no way in the world she would have seen herself going into this space to where she had to deal with the politics that came in 2020. And so one of the major critiques is Tate became a battleground rather than a museum, is what a lot of critics were arguing during that time, during Balshaw's, her tenure. And that Tate increasingly became this site of symbolic conflict, and that it became a place where political and ethical and cultural battles were fought publicly rather than a museum. And do you see that through line there of what we're talking about? And these things are happening not at the same time. We're talking about 3 different eras, 3 different moments, 3 different individuals battling are three different individuals in individual institutions battling the same thing and handling it in different ways. And that should put context into the position that we are in right now, with Amy Sherrod stepping down from that exhibition, and the Whitney not putting political pressures within this exhibition that is going to be happening in 2026, but also this director stepping down and also receiving such critique about having this site, about having this museum, or these museums that became a site, the Tate becoming the site of this symbolic conflict, and being this place where these battles were fought publicly and these protests and sponsorship controversies were happening. And she received a lot of, the Tate period received a lot of intense media scrutiny, and it meant that exhibitions and acquisitions were often read through a political lens first. And that put a lot of pressure on the Tate. That put a lot of pressure on this institution. And it put a lot of pressure on the artists that were a part of this institution during that tenure, during her tenure. And it's not her fault. I don't view it as a leadership fault. I view it as a response. And how do you respond to the time period? And that is also a reflection of, why is the Whitney not responding to the time period, right? Why is the Whitney not responding to the time period? Well, when she responded to the time period, she got a very specific type of criticism. And it led to criticism that became a curatorial risk, and it became harder to sustain these exhibitions. And the exhibitions were overshadowed by these institutional politics, and these directors were expected to act as these moral leaders without the autonomy to be moral leaders. And this isn't framed as Balshaw's personal shortcoming. I don't believe so. But it was really more of a structural problem of leadership in public institutions today. And again, looking at Amy, looking at the Wit, looking at Balshaw, what do we see? And a lot of critics are noting that stepping down after 8 years is really not abrupt, right? Like, she had a good tenure. That directors don't stay at galleries for 40 years. I believe the person that just left the Whitney, I believe he was there for 20 years, but that's considered a long cycle. She left after 8 years, and that's not really abrupt. And it is actually this evidence that she completed an institutional cycle. But the underlying critic is that museums have not rethought governance fast enough to support directors operating under this level of scrutiny. And that's something that really has to be talked about. Let me look at the chat and see what you guys are thinking. Oh no, I came back to the chat and I have more of you guys sending more money. Thank you guys. I have Visually Conscious, appreciate the art reporting. I have Tea Gathering Art. We need more of the conversations. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. Wow. I just didn't expect this at all. I mean, keep them coming. But I didn't expect it at all. And it's very, very much so appreciated. That is what keeps this channel going. That is what gives me the capacity to keep going in this channel. So I really appreciate that. Y'all, the chat's not on the same screen that I'm looking at when I'm viewing and looking at the screen with you guys. So I don't see all of your messages. Let's see. Does the Whitney scout artists for the biennial, or do artists apply? They're scouting these artists. So they're going on studio visits for years, making sure that, and having multiple conversations, making sure that the artists that they are in conversation with, that they are aligning with what they have planned. And from my understanding, this biennial is not surrounded by a theme, but rather kind of rooted in the structure of how these artists can build worlds. So anyway, it's a really, really critical time for institutions, and we have to talk about this. And I hope you guys are listening, because as artists, as collectors, we talk about the commercial side of things a lot, right? I mean, and it's important. These things are affecting one another. The institutional side, and when I say all of these are institutions, galleries are institutions, museums are institutions. But when we talk about these museums, they do affect gallery decisions because they affect acquisitions. They're and when collectors and galleries and advocates are getting behind specific artists and really are advocating for certain museums to acquire certain artworks, well, when there is a specific type of political pressure, it affects acquisitions. When certain directors leave, it changes the trajectory of that museum. It changes the trajectory of that institution, which changes how that institution will acquire art because they have different goals when a new director comes in. So the way that Tate has been acquiring in the past may not be the way that they're acquiring in the future, which will affect what artists end up in specific collections. So, this ecosystem works together. It's not alone. This ecosystem 100% works together. So yeah, y'all let me know what y'all are thinking so far, what your thoughts are. How do y'all feel? Are y'all even familiar with how this ecosystem is interacting with one another? Let me know. Let me know. So after talking about institutions and leaderships and all of these pressure points like the biennial, I always want to come back to the artists themselves and just kind of do some discovery. Thank y'all for sticking around so far. I mean, I know we started this really, really rocky. Hopefully I can edit all of that out so when this video actually posts, we not, the other folks don't have to deal with all of that. So let's talk a little bit about, I wanted to talk about this. Have y'all seen this? The Picasso painting that was valued at $1.1 million is going to be raffled off for $120. What would y'all do with that? I mean, I thought about this when I seen this, and I thought about a lot of things. What do you do when you receive $1 million artwork? What do you do with it? What would y'all do with it? I mean, but also those other questions I have, right, are about like insurance, like I don't know who's in the room. I haven't dug that deep, but who can actually sustain $1 million artwork? What if they're not equipped to take care of, sustain, insure? I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of questions. Are they going to prepare that person on how to take care of this Picasso? Because all this person did was spend $100. So it says the $1 Picasso or the $1 million Picasso for €100 concept was first realized in 2013. Okay, so this is a thing. Huh. Anyway, this could be you. I encourage y'all to go look at this article, but we're going to move on. So this is an artist that I wanted to talk a little bit about. And I hope when I play this, I don't get copywritten, but I'm going to play this for you guys to watch.
Hi, my name is Khalif Tayyar Thompson. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I've been working professionally as a painter for the past 5 or 6 years. Cherry means something very sweet and nostalgic, a small pleasure that you savor, and I kind of wanted the show to encapsulate some of those values of nostalgia and sweetness. And it was actually started with a book I read as a child about a little girl who enjoyed eating cherries with her father and loving time with your loved ones and just sharing a treat that you can think of later on. And I really resonated with that, and I kind of wanted that sentiment in the show. I feel like a lot of my interest in painting, was through my schooling, but also through my being inspired by so many important.
Hopefully we won't get copyright. That's why I'm going to stop that right there. But I wanted to talk about him because I wanted to talk about this artist because of the way that I stumbled across this artist. I was reading an article and just doing some research. I have a video dropping tomorrow about 5 artists I think you guys should really know. And via that research, I mean, I'm just I'm sifting through artists, right? I mean, and I'm trying to figure out like which artists do we place together, which artists do you guys critically need to know about. And I thought about a few artists. I thought about an artist, his name is Will Maxon, and I want to show you guys his work. He's a Houston-based artist, but I believe he is working with Friedman Gallery. And he's an artist that I consider talking about, and I probably will in the future. To me, very Jennifer Packer inspired. I want to show you guys Jennifer Packer at the same time so you guys get what I'm saying. I know we veered off the Packers. We do not care about that. I mean, maybe y'all do. But I do want to show y'all like this similarities between Will, and this is what I thought about when I first saw his work. I've had a chance to meet him. He's come to a show that I've curated, and really, really, really nice guy. But I see the lineage here, and what I'm not saying is that he's copying her work. I'm saying that I see a lineage between her work and his work, and I see a conversation forming and a conversation happening. And, you know, as I thought about this, I did think about maybe I should do a video that sits these two artists in conversation with one another and talk through how you can be, as an artist, informed by another artist, and how you could be amongst the lineage of these artists without being considered someone that's copying an artist. You can be amongst the lineage of that artist. And that is the way that I look at Will Maxon, as a part of Jennifer Packer's lineage. But anyway, I only brought him up to kind of sift through some of the artists that I was thinking about. And something else that really stood out to me is I was on Artsy, and let's go to Artsy, because I was on Artsy and I came across an artist that they recommended to me. They always recommend an artist, and they recommended, let's see if it's up, some of the artworks that I've viewed recently. Maybe not. So I'll just type her name in just so you guys know. And I've talked about her on my channel before too, but she came up, and she's kind of been coming up recently. And I thought it was really interesting. And I don't know if these two things correlate. I don't know, but I'm going to assume that they do. I was looking at Artsy, and they recommended this artist to me. And maybe the next day I ran across this article, and it made me wonder, right? I know that this ecosystem works together. It made me wonder, first of all, does she have PR? I wondered if she had PR, because if she is a conversation happening amongst folks, amongst the writers, amongst the gallerists, amongst her PR, amongst her management, whoever she's working with, that they're pushing her forward. And when you see things like that, you start getting recommended. You start seeing, like, you have to pay attention to little things like that as a collector. I would pay attention to that. Oh, she's being written about. Oh, she's being recommended. Oh, something's about to happen, right? And I just want us to put a pin in this artist so that if things start blowing up over the next year or next 2 years, we know that together we seen these signals. Yeah, she has PR. Yes, Shay, she definitely has PR. My sister-in-law is in the chat. Everybody say hey to Shay. But yeah, no, she started like popping up in these different places, and I'm like, okay, well, she definitely has to have public relations somewhere. She has to have PR. So we have to pay attention to signals like that. And that's why it's important for us to read these articles. That's why it's important for us to stay on top of these platforms and see who they're recommending. It's not by accident. Curators work for Artsy, and curators are in conversation with artists. Curators are in conversation with other curators, with galleries. Everyone's in conversation with one another. And it's really important that we recognize that these things are not happening in a silo, that someone is pushing them forward. And if it's not just one person, it's multiple people pushing them forward at one time. And this is a signal that I don't think we can afford to like really ignore. I know I got off of the subject because we were talking about Khalif, but I wanted to bring it back just a little bit. The reason that I even ran across him is because I was reading an article, and that article listed about 10 artists, and he stood out to me. And so just to key in on the fact that it's really important that as we are in the art world, that we read. We have to read. There was also an artist that I wanted to look at with you guys. Their name is Taylor Simmons. And I was thinking about including them as well in another video. So y'all let me know what y'all think, because if y'all like this artist, then maybe I'll dig a little bit more into the artist. And this artist kind of not like Will Maxon, not like Jennifer Packer, but I also think that this artist could sit a little bit in that conversation because of the looseness in the brushwork. Do y'all see that similarity there? Let's look at Taylor for a second, and then I want to go back to Will and go back to Jennifer. He's definitely a little bit more structured in his approach, but that brushwork is real similar. Her name is Uman, U-M-A-N. All right, so we're looking at Taylor a little bit, and then if we go back to, he's a little bit more ethereal in his work, but the brushwork is similar. And then we look at, we got to go back to Jennifer Packer. These artists are in conversation with one another. I actually did not expect to be exploring these artists together on this live. So this might be a video that I kind of contextualize in my Thursday video, where we look at all three of these artists together and kind of essay them in conversation with one another. Do y'all have any artists? Let me know in the chat. Do y'all have any artists that you guys want to explore, that y'all want to take a look at? Are there any artists y'all want to look at? Any artists that y'all recommend? I'm going to give y'all a second to just kind of drop an artist name in the chat. Maybe we can go over to their Instagram. But yeah, that's really all I have for today. Main things, main takeaways. When we're looking at these institutions, nothing's happening by accident. You look at Amy Sherald and the fact that she rejected her show from the Smithsonian, and then you take a look at the Tate and Maria stepping down, and then you take a look at the Biennial, and what is a through line with all of that is political pressure, and how political pressure is affecting the choices that these institutions are making, and that trickles down to everyday artists. Don't think it doesn't. Political pressures affecting the choices that museums make, because it affects their money. It affects the type of funding that they're getting. It affects how their donors want to spend money. All of these things trickle down to everyday artists. Even if you're not an Amy Sherald, if it can affect Amy Sherald, who painted the portrait of Mrs. Obama, of Michelle Obama, and they tell her no, an artist like that, they tell her no. And then you have a show like the Whitney Biennial, which it should highlight some of the most important topics of the time period. It should be reflective of what's happening right now. And they totally shy away from anything controversial. And then you have Maria stepping down from the Tate, and her tenure was during something like COVID. Her tenure was during the first term of Trump. These things are not happening alone. Nothing's happening in a silo. It's happening together. And those are the things that we have to pay attention to when, we're thinking about, okay, I have a few artists y'all want to look at. Jose Duran. We're gonna look up Jose Duran and then we're gonna go. You might have to drop their link in the chat. Jose Duran. Let's type in artist. Maybe that'll bring it up. Okay, I see some, kind of Mickalene Thomas coded. And okay, and I like that you brought this artist up because I like this artist. And there are a few artists that I could think about that are kind of creating the same architectural, interior design like approach to their work, but also heavy lines, real geometrical cuts. There's an artist, her name is Kama. She's here in Houston that we can put these artists. We could put these artists in a very similar conversation. We could put these artists in the same kind of lineage in a way. And she just finished, Kama just finished her, she just finished her residency at Black Rock. So that's really big. I would pay attention to her if I were you guys. Dang, can I look at the work? Let's see. Maybe I'm just not pressing the right thing. Okay. And so, dang, I wish I could actually click on it. Let's just zoom in. I can't even do that. Okay, well, I want to look at these two at the same time. I wish I could look at it bigger than this, but I want to look at these at the same time so we can see the similarities and how these artists are just always in conversation with one another. And I don't know who this artist is, but I really like it. And I would say like the difference between these two artists is their color choices and the way that they are using colors. Her colors are a little bit more diluted in color, but also rich in those golds and those oranges. And this artist her colors are way more saturated and a little bit more opulent, where opulent, but also design forward, where I would say Kama leans heavily into an aesthetic that is known to like opulent Black families. And Kama, girl, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, thank you for recommending this artist. Let's look at it a little bit more. Jose Duran. I like it. I like when we can do this, and I like when we can find and think about artists together, because first of all, I've never heard about this artist, and so it's really cool that we're able to look at this artist and put them in conversation with other artists. But you know what? I thought this was collage. Is it collage? These are paintings. Wow. So they do work. Oh, this is all painting. Okay. I thought this was collage. Kama's work is collage. Okay, Hannah. Okay. Yeah. I'm surprised I never heard. She's doing really well as a gallerist. Let's see if y'all got any other artists in the chat. Yeah, Shay, I love the architecture and the vibrant color too. Tawny Chapman. Let's look at Tawny Chapman. Because I'm only looking at Tawny because you had a good recommendation. That was a good recommendation. Photography-based artist. This is photography? Hyper-realistic in a way. But this looks stylized. The clothes look stylized. Let's look at the newer work. Okay, iconography. Okay, 24 karat gold leaf. Okay, so it is hyper realistic photography, but manipulated with all of these different materials. Is that what's happening? I like it. It's really beautiful work. I never heard of this artist either. Where are they? Iconography is an evolving body of work influenced by Byzantine icons. Okay, I see the Byzantine influence for sure. Let's see, where are they from? Tokyo, Japan. Huh. A self-taught artist born in Maryland but working in Japan. Okay. Good recommendations. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Anyway, y'all, I gotta go. We've been here for way longer than I thought we would be here. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for the super chats. Let's keep those coming. That'll influence me to keep showing up. But you know what? I wanted to tell y'all too. We have something really cool coming up planned for these lives, and which is another reason why I'm getting out all of these kinks. We got to get out all the kinks. So thank y'all for staying around through the kinks that we had this morning. Because what we have coming up in 2026 for these lives, it's gonna get really good. It's gonna get really good. So I appreciate you guys for being here, for supporting this by way of just interacting, being in the chat, sending your super chats. I'll see y'all next time. So there's a video dropping tomorrow, Wednesday, another dropping on Thursday. And I plan to take off next week, but I still might hop on the live. So we'll see. I'll let you guys know. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.